Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with the latest on the lockdown here in Spain, day 14. And firstly, I'd just like to say thanks to all of the people that contributed in the comments section on the last video. More than 600 comments from people telling us about their lockdown experiences, what the situation is like in their country. People from Canada, from Sweden, from Finland, New Zealand, Australia, all around the world, different people giving their points of view and telling us what it is like in their particular neck of the woods. Now, the majority of the comments are positive. A couple were a little bit negative. Somebody told me that I should shut these videos down, but I'm going to continue for the moment. But apart from that, as I said, the majority of the comments were positive. Now, we'll have a look at what's happening here in Spain. Now, unfortunately, the situation's not getting better. In fact, the numbers keep rising. So pretty negative from that point of view. And the first thing that we're going to look at today is something that I mentioned the other day regarding the testing kits that were bought from China that proved to be faulty. The government has since returned those kits to China. Apparently what happened was that the company that they bought them from wasn't an official listed company. And the Chinese government apparently also stepped in and said that they didn't recommend buying the kits from that particular company. And we can see here that the Health Ministry has recognized that they have returned more than 50,000 faulty testing kits. And I think some new ones are on the way. So hopefully when those arrive, we can start to get more people tested here in Spain. Now, the Guardian newspaper put out an article during the week, and it was titled, "How did Spain get its coronavirus response so wrong?" So if you're interested in reading what Spain has done wrong so far during this health crisis, I recommend you have a look at that particular article. And what the article does is it lists all the things that Spain got wrong on the lead up to this crisis. So take a look at that, and you can look and see what your country's doing in the same circumstances. Now, the government has also said that it is going to be illegal for companies to fire workers during this crisis. They're going to put that in place in the next few days, that companies will not be allowed to fire workers. They will be allowed, however, to have these temporary redundancy plans, but the government has also said that they're going to go over those plans with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that people don't take advantage of the situation. So the government making it illegal to fire workers. Now, I don't know what that's going to mean for a lot of companies that are just not going to be able to pay people if their businesses have stopped. But again, we can see that there have been an avalanche of loans to companies to pay March payrolls. And I imagine that next month there's also going to be another avalanche, and the month after, and the month after, until the economy starts to pick up again. When that is going to be, nobody knows. Remember, day 14 of lockdown, the economy is virtually stopped. The construction industry is still working. Apparently the government is saying that that needs to go ahead, so they haven't shut down construction of new buildings yet. But you never know when that is going to shut down completely as well. So when that happens, things are obviously going to get worse. Now, we can also see that some of the cracks in the European Union are starting to appear. There was a problem earlier this week between some of the countries in the north and the countries in the south. And we can see here that Portugal lashes back at Holland and defends Spain during EU Council meeting. Spain did not create or import the virus. And apparently some of the countries in the north of Europe, i.e. Germany and Holland, are not willing to listen to some of the ideas that the southern countries are putting forward. Some of the economic measures that the south wants to happen. For example, Corona bonos is one of the things that Spain and Portugal were looking to get. And we can see here that the Financial Times also has a headline that says straining the ties that bind the Eurozone. And they talk about a newly formed alliance in some of the southern countries here in Europe that they are calling the No Limits 9. And the northern countries are trying to put restrictions on what the southern countries can spend. The Dutch finance minister apparently came out and said that Brussels should investigate countries like Spain for not having a budgetary margin to fight the pandemic in spite of the last 7 years of growth. So we'll see how that ends up. Now, some light news from the crisis here, and that is that Spaniards are buying less toilet paper, but beer sales are up by 78%. So good to see that people are stocking up their fridges with beer. I did notice that at the supermarket the other day that beer stocks were running a little bit low. Hopefully the beer companies here in Spain will be able to ramp up production and get beer back on the shelves, because we wouldn't want to go through this crisis with a beer shortage or an alcohol shortage for that matter. Now, I mentioned a couple of videos ago that the finance minister was studying a number of measures, and one of those measures was to put a maximum rent level that people could pay in order to help them get through the crisis. Apparently that idea has been overturned, and now they're talking about looking at ways to maybe give some type of financial help, but that's not going to be finalized until next week apparently. And next week again, they're also talking about announcing a minimum guaranteed salary for people in need. So we'll see what happens next week from an economy point of view. Now, another piece of news is that the government is also talking about cracking down on dog owners who are apparently taking liberties with the amount of times they are walking their dogs, because remember that here in Spain, one of the only things that people can do to get out into the street is to take a dog for a walk. Dog sales have apparently gone through the roof, and people have also gone to the extremes of borrowing dogs from neighbors. So sometimes you can see the same dog being walked by 5 or 6 different people. So the government is maybe now considering taking measures in order to crack down on that, because people were abusing those liberties. One of the last liberties or freedoms that we have, and that might be also taken away in the next week or so as well. Now, some of the comments on the last video, one here from 123 Ryanist. He said that yesterday the Swedish government put in new restrictions. They will not allow gatherings of over 50 people, and the curve has started to flatten. So good news in Sweden, 50 people can still get together. We can only dream about gatherings of 50 people. We can't even dream of gatherings of 2 people at the moment. So Sweden obviously dealing with this problem differently. Stephen Keogh says that he doesn't understand why you are not allowed to go for a run. Now, I don't understand that either, because I think exercise is fundamental in these times. But obviously the government here thinks that people can't be trusted to do things like exercise or go for a walk alone. So they obviously don't trust the population to do those things. They're trying to limit this as much as possible, and therefore we have the very strict restrictions that we have in Spain. I personally think that we should be able to do some type of exercise, because I know that in the UK you can still do exercise. I know that in Ireland you can still do exercise. In New Zealand you can still do exercise. In the majority of the countries around the world, some type of exercise is still allowed. And let's be honest, it's fundamental in times like this. We need to be as healthy as possible. We don't want people to get diabetes and our arteries clogging up while we are stuck at home not being able to exercise. So I probably agree with Stephen there, but I'm sure you'll tell me otherwise in the comment section if I'm wrong. Jessie Mee says that she's supposed to be moving from the UK to Spain to live and work on the 14th of April, and she's beyond confused as to whether she'll be able to get in. Now, at the moment, I don't think you will be able to get in, Jessie. I think that you'll just have to stay in the UK until all of this boils over. If anybody knows any different, please leave it in the comment section below. But as far as I know, borders are closed at the moment, and the only people that are allowed to come in are residents or nationals of the country. So I don't think you'll be able to move here on the 14th of April. But if that changes, we'll let you know here. Now, Zane from New Zealand, my mate Zane from New Zealand, we go back a long way, Zane and I. He says, very similar to Madrid with respects to what's open, only essential services, medical, doctors, pharmacies, petrol, supermarkets, civil emergency laws apply, and the police and military can and do enforce. So New Zealand obviously trying to nip this problem in the bud as soon as possible. Bruce Jackson from New Zealand also says here that we are at level 4. We can walk outside. That's something that we can't do here in Spain, obviously. And I'll be honest with you, when this is over, I'll probably move to New Zealand. Somebody in the comments section on the last video said that, what am I doing in Spain? I should be in Australia, pack up the family and go home. Well, I might take that person up on that suggestion, but I'll probably go to New Zealand where the grasses are greener, and they are doing a good job at the moment to try to, as I said, keep this problem contained. Now, the final comment here, Mr. Infinity Jinx says, oh, he really hates public workers. I hope he never needs to rely on their help. Now, I had a bit of a crack at public workers in the last video, but I don't hate public workers. I don't hate anybody. All I was saying was that I think they should be showing a little bit more solidarity, or the government should show a little bit more solidarity, and instead of paying them 100% of their salary, even if they're not working during these tough times, show a little bit of solidarity with the private sector and perhaps reduce salaries a little bit, and maybe there'll be a little bit of extra money in the kitty to help people in need. That was my only criticism of public workers there. So that's all. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. I'll let you guys debate the situation out. Tell us how your lockdown is going. I think 40% of the world now is in some form of lockdown. So tell us how yours is going in the comment section below. Always like going through and reading and seeing what other people are doing in these tough times. Keep safe and hasta luego.